Just because you do not live with mental illness does not mean you have good mental health. And if you do have a mental illness, you can have good mental health. I know that is true because I'm Wendy Watkins. I'm the host of Making Stuff Up with Wendy, and I live with mental illness and I practice good mental health. And if you're looking to improve your mental health, then this is the place that you're going to receive and learn how to use your MSU to live a delicious life. We all make stuff up, so why not make up the good stuff? My guest today is Tina Collura. She helps business owners work on their business instead of in their business, which is a very, very good quality to have. She takes people's big ideas and breaks them down into more smaller and manageable tasks so that they don't have to feel overwhelmed or uncertain about what their next step should be. She takes away the tasks that you don't want to do so that you can focus on the tasks that you love to do. She's a wonderful consultant, and Tina Collura makes stuff up. Welcome, Tina.
Hey, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I know I am as well. Super glad that you're here. So first things first, we must give you your MSU, because you do make stuff up, my friend. So congratulations. You have learned how to make stuff up for a delicious life. So here is your diploma.
Oh my
God. Now you could frame it, you could show it to everyone, but the most important thing you could do now is you can put an MSU behind your name, right? You have 4 letters for you.
I love it.
I know, because, now you make stuff up. So before we get into the conversation about that, I want to remind our guest that today's show is not a replacement for medical or mental health treatment. It's edutainment about ways to improve your mental health. And if you are having mental health challenges, in the comments, you could find information, links, and phone numbers to reach out and get the support that you need. So thank you all watchers for being here and Tina for being here. So let's jump into this, because I want to hear how you define this concept of making stuff up. What does that mean to you?
Oh gosh, I feel like, Wendy, that's a part of our everyday life in every era, in every generation. I think depending on what you've been presented with, whatever life has, put in front of you, if you don't have the right tools or the right support, you got to make things up in the moment in order to, combat that concern or that issue, or, just trying to deal with whatever it is that you're faced with. So I feel like we're always making stuff up. And I have 2 small children, and I love their imagination because that's what they do all day. I'm like, yeah, go make stuff up.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's another word. I think there are many words and terms we could use for making stuff up, and imagination is a good one. And it's so true. I love how you state that we all, we do it every day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We do it every day. But some people make up the good stuff and other people don't make up the good stuff. Which way do you lean? I have a feeling I know the answer, but I'm curious.
I mean, I like to think that I make up the good stuff. That's, the whole reason I named my company See Yourself Grow is because I started identifying with areas of my life that I was struggling with. And I was just going through the motions of, okay, let me try this today, or let me try this in this hour, let me try that, whatever works, you know what I mean? If conventional stuff wasn't working for me, I would take what I would learn, and obviously I'd turn it into a positive in order to get the results that I think I was needing in that moment,
Yeah. Now, does that come naturally to you to take it from the positive, or is that something you've had to work on over the years?
So in my younger years, I struggled a lot with communication, with managing my emotions. And because of that, I didn't know I would always resort to the defensive, and I didn't know how to handle certain situations. So I would come across very negative. But I was always a natural positive person until I was confronted with something that I didn't know how to deal with. And as I grew as a person, and as I started getting introduced to different methodologies, different ways of thinking, then once I learned about, the positive side of life, that's it. My husband, he's like, it's like you got your blinders on. All you do is see the positive in everything and everyone. So he's the one who points out the negative to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't see it that way.
It is fascinating because I'm with you in that camp, right? I'm an optimist. And I do tend to see things, that way. I always am the one bringing the lemonade when the lemons show up. And, like you said, it wasn't always there for me to do that, right? I had to do different exercises and practices to make that shift. Was there anything in particular that you did, a tool or a tip that you do that, because we all slip into the negative sometimes. Let's face it, these last few years have given us the opportunity to do that. When you notice that you're starting to go down the spiral, what do you do?
So I have my daily routine of journaling, meditating, and affirmations.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, Wendy, when I am not at my best, or when I am going down that downward spiral, I tend to notice that I stop doing those daily routines. And so I always revert back. And I usually start with the affirmations in the mirror. So I connect with them visually, audioly, and kinesthetically. And so that's where I usually start. And then I go back to my writing. And one of the things that I made up during the pandemic was, I was having that moment of anxiety where I was having a hard time breathing, and I kept tensing up my muscles and, cracking my neck. And my husband, he's like, what's wrong? He's like, something's wrong. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I need a minute. So I would get up and walk outside, and then I would come back and I would start writing down the areas of my life that were bugging me in that moment. And then I created 3 columns. What's working? What's not working? What can we do better? And it started with my husband, my kids, my home, my work life. And I just made a list, and then I started, and he's like, this is awesome. He's like, this is great. I'm like, you think it's great? I'm like, you who doesn't want to be, influenced in any way with anything positive? And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm going to use this. I'm like, oh, okay. And I got to tell you, Wendy, whenever I'm stressed out or have that moment of anxiety, that's what I go to now. That's my go-to activity.
That's a wonderful activity. And so just to reiterate for our viewers, and I want to make sure I got it right. And thank you to all of you that are taking the time to view Making Stuff Up with Wendy and my guest, Tina Collura, today. We're so glad that you're here. And if you love what you're hearing, please go ahead and subscribe so that you can never miss an episode. We release them every Saturday morning, and you could learn more about how to make stuff up so you're living a delicious life. So what I heard there, Tina, was that you look at what works in that moment. You have a feeling, right? You're not feeling the energy, right? You're not, you're let's see, how would we say you're maybe feeling a lower vibration?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a lot of times how that shows up for all of us that deal with, that's what shows up in your mental health. Like when we think about mental health, you could know that your mental health may be off when you're not feeling so good, just like your physical health. That's right. When you have a tummy ache or a headache, but we really can't name when you have a heartache or a joy ache. Right. It's a little bit more challenging, but I like the way that you take that feeling, and that's how we know the vibration goes lower, and you look in that moment, not like yesterday, not in the future, but right now, what's working,
Yeah.
what's not working,
Yep.
and what can we do to change?
Yes. Yep. Yep. And I started doing it, like I said, with my personal life.
Yes.
And then I transferred that and started writing down all the different areas of my business. I'm like, okay, I'm like, this exercise could work in this regard as well. And I've done it with my clients and I've done it for myself. And it brings clarity and it
Yes.
brings focus, to what you need to concentrate on. And, the activities, it's basically admitting to yourself, but it's not just focusing on the negative. You're starting with what's working. When it comes to my husband, what's working? When it comes to my children, what's working? Right? And then what's not working, what can we do better?
As you're saying that, I'm realizing that I love that you started with what's working, because then we get to the vibration all of a sudden will start to shift when you're looking at what's working in your life, right? Because that's that gratitude piece, which is, I mean, to me, gratitude is the antidote to a bad day. There's no doubt about it. So you just nip it in the bud by looking at what's working and then exploring from that place of gratitude what's not working.
Yeah.
Right. And making conscious decisions. And that's the other benefit of using your MSU is you're then making conscious decisions instead of just living your life by default, which can be a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel as though when you take time to self-reflect, when you take time to grab a piece of paper and a pen, you're admitting to yourself, you're connecting with it, mentally and physically, and again, kinesthetically and emotionally.
Yes.
Because I don't know about you, Wendy, but I find like in this day and age, everybody is so quick to grab their phones, right, for instant gratification.
Yes.
And they think that's going to solve their problem, and all it's doing, it's masking the problem at hand. So if you're willing to be honest with yourself, I mean, the best way to help yourself is to write, right? Because that's how you connect with yourself.
Yes, yes. And that kinesthetic piece of actually writing it down is very, very powerful. So then you get to the clarity, right, of the things that you want to change. And sometimes that's like when we change is like, oh, for a lot of people, right? That can be a catalyst to not feeling so well emotionally or mentally, right? We start making stuff up about change that may not serve us. And that, I believe, is the majority of the population. Not everybody, but a lot of people that haven't learned how to be conscious creators yet will actually lose their focus at that point, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say to our audience about being able to use your MSU when you have that clarity, and even when you still may not be feeling your best, right? When you realize you have to make changes that you don't want to make, or that feel too hard, or that you, like you said earlier, when you don't know how to do something, it stresses you out. So what would you suggest to our listeners of using your MSU in that situation?
So what I would say is circle the one. I would go to both spectrums. So I would circle one thing that you could look at changing very easily. And then I would circle one thing that you're terrified of, right? So that way, you can put yourself in the middle and say, okay, these are the two items that I am going to commit to. One doesn't scare me so much. The other scares the bejesus out of me. But you know what? I'm gonna make a conscious effort to say, I'm gonna make these changes, right? And the thing with change is, again, everyone adapts to change differently, right? Everybody looks, and again, it also depends on how big of the change it is, right? So if we could just start doing like a few little things to get us into that direction of making that change, that's the activities we need to gravitate to. The other thing you want to do is tell someone else, right? tell someone else that you are going, or you're thinking about making this change. And if you're the type of person who needs to research, to combat that fear of the unknown, do a little research, right? In my personal life, if I'm thinking about making a change, I share it with my husband. In my business, I share it with my virtual assistant, right? And they're the two people that I trust the most, because they're the two people that are not going to judge me, right? They're going to give me constructive feedback. They know me the best, right? So pick one or two, right? Items, a simple one and a difficult one. Tell someone else, and then start making a list of little things that you could do to get yourself closer to implementing that change.
That's fabulous. So simple, and it's just what I love about that is that it's small things, right? It's writing it down, it's telling somebody, and then, maybe just doing the research for 20 minutes, right? And then to complement that fabulous ritual there is, of course, I'm going to invite you all to use your MSU, right? And to see yourself achieving the change. Right. That's what the making stuff up is. A lot of times people will use, I could say a lot of times I could slip, not a lot of times, but I could slip and forget and make stuff up that things aren't going to work out the way I would like them to. Right. And that's when I'll start to feel not so good. And then I realize it and I can catch myself and then start to make things up by seeing myself actually achieving that change, or that goal, or that intention, and seeing myself like, what will it feel like, when I am at that highest vibration in my relationship, or when I'm expressing my creativity to the fullest, right? What does that look like? And I make it up. And then I have something to step into, and it makes me feel good, right?
Yes. I'm all about visualization, Wendy. So part of my morning routine is I look at my vision board for 10 to 15 minutes, right? And I visualize myself achieving that goal. And when my kids, when they see me like sitting on the floor with my vision board, I have little vision boards for them too that I pull out, right? Their vision boards are all full of toys and dolls and what have you. But the fact of the matter is whatever I'm doing for me, I want them to mimic that, right? In their own version, right? Because as you know, monkey see, monkey do. And, we've been together for the last 2 years. And so it's important to instill, these positive actions in the people around you. And you can never change anyone, right? But you could definitely influence them based on what they are seeing and what you are doing, right?
Man, oh man, you just said something. I've used my MSU to try and change people before. It never works. It never works.
No. You lead by, listen, I told you, Wendy, my husband is the most negative, pessimistic person. And his mother will call me. She's like, what did you do to my son? I'm like, I did nothing. I'm like, but what he's seeing, and he'll tell his mother, he's like, she's got so much energy. I don't know where she gets it from. And I don't know how she stays so positive every day. But it's rubbing off on him,
Yes, absolutely. What a gift you are, my dear. What a gift. All right, so if you're up to it, I think it's time for the MSU challenge. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, I love challenges, Wendy. What do you got? What do you got?
All right, so I'm going to challenge you to, and you may be able to turn around because I see you have some cool things behind you and maybe in front of you, but I'd like you to pick something in your room and you're going to make something up on how that represents your year. Go.
Oh.
You have 1 minute. Go.
Oh, here we go.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Show us what it is and then how you're going to use your MSU to support you. Look at that. I love that. Tip it a little forward. Tip it a little forward. Yeah, there you go.
See that?
Yep, that's much better. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So this was given to me as a gift from someone that I used to manage. And it really resonates with me, Wendy, because I look at it and this embodies everything that I want to achieve and I want to instill in others, right? So my word of the year is collaboration. And I am looking forward to collaborating with others, leading by example, right? Influencing, make difference maker. That's cool, right? So if I'm going to make something up with this, Wendy, and I'm going to share it with you, and yeah.
Well, I just know what that's going to be because you whispered about your event that you're going to be doing later on in the year. So, well, I know you're going to make something up good with that, Tina. I can't wait. And we'll keep all of you listeners on that as well. Thank you so much for that, Tina.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And for all of you listening, know that all of Tina's information is in the comments. And so feel free to reach out to her if you have questions about the ritual she shared or the work that she does, because she is amazing. And, you know, it's coaches like us, Tina. I'm just going to toot our horn for a minute that make the world go around. And if you, as a listener, are stuck in using your MSU, and you're not creating a delicious life, then it's time to reach out to someone like myself, like Tina, like other professionals that are here to support you in living your best life. And we are here for you. And look, if you're going to make stuff up, make up the good stuff. And sometimes that's a learned skill. And we are here for you. So Tina, any parting words before we wrap up here?
You know, just be gentle with yourself. Whatever it is, whatever journey, whatever adventure you want to embark on this year, just know that it's a process, right? And things are created twice, right? Once in your mind and twice in reality. And I always say to my girls, I'm like, dreams don't come true, plans come true. So like, whatever it is that you want to achieve, start with the end in mind and start writing down 1 to 3 little actions that'll get you there.
Girl, we are so in synchronicity here. I'm so glad to know you. Thank you so much for your time. Yes,
my pleasure.
Thank you to all of you that took your time to watch Making Stuff Up with Wendy. Please subscribe and share. And remember, if you're making stuff up, make up the good stuff. See you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again, Wendy.
You're welcome, Tina. Thank you.